Hello and welcome to 60 Seconds with Sergio. I am your host, Sergio Cabanas, attorney at law here in Florida. Thank you for joining me today. Today's question is, Sergio, how long does it really take to get a divorce finalized here in Florida? Well, there's no exact time for a divorce process, but I can give you ranges. I'll start with the extreme ranges based on our experience and history here at the Cabanas Law Firm. So our record for the shortest, fastest divorce was 3 weeks. That's from the time that the client hired us, with us completing all the paperwork, filing with the court on an uncontested basis, and having the judge sign off on all of the divorce papers with a final judgment. And that was done in our record time of 3 weeks. On the other hand, I've had complicated cases that go on for much longer. One of them has been going on for almost 4 years. It's largely due to the fact that there are a lot of issues, and the judge was simply not available, and part of it was due to the pandemic as well, and a lot of it was a lot of extraneous circumstances that were weighing down the divorce process. So that can occur in any given case. So there's no good way that any lawyer can predict with certainty how long each case could take. However, there are certain factors that can give us important clues. If I were to meet with you and go over the specific facts of your case, I could give you a better range based on 4 factors. Factor number 1, I look at the number and the value of the assets and the complexities of the issues involving these assets, such as houses, real estate investment properties, businesses, things of that nature. Obviously, if there are few or no marital assets, we're not likely to argue over who gets what. Of course, the opposite or the other extreme is true. If cases involve many assets of high values or complex issues about whether certain assets are considered marital versus non-marital, then the divorce could take much longer. The second factor that we look at is the length of the marriage. The longer the parties are married, the more likely it'll be complicated and take more time to resolve. The reason is that the parties with longer marriages usually acquire more assets and debts during the marriage, and they have also more exposure to alimony, which also takes more time and work to settle. The sooner you divorce, the less complicated your case may be. The third factor I look at is whether there are minor children. If there are minor children or a pregnancy from the relationship, this could complicate a divorce. The reason is that minor children often involve additional issues that range from custody or time sharing, child support, parental responsibility, and many more issues. So that brings us to factor number 4, the extent to which the parties are agreeable and cooperative about reaching an agreement for the divorce. This, to me, is really the most important factor of all of them. You can have many complicated issues in any given divorce case, but if the parties are amenable, cooperative, agreeable to reaching a settlement that they can both live with, they can sail through this process very quickly. On the other hand, I've had cases with very few or simple issues that are normally easily resolved, but one or both parties are being unreasonable or disagreeable. So now that we have all of these factors in mind, we can look at that case that I mentioned that I did as little as 3 weeks. Well, that was a relatively simple case. So in that case, we had very few assets, and the assets that there were of very little value, and it was a short-term marriage of just a few months. There were no minor children, and the wife was not pregnant. But most importantly, both parties were in full agreement with the divorce. They were very cooperative with giving me all of the information I needed and coming in and signing the paperwork for a full settlement agreement right away. As soon as I filed all of the legal documents for the judge to review, the judge took it upon himself to expedite a final hearing right away. The entire case was completed in just 3 weeks. On the other hand, we have the other extreme. Let's take that 4-year case that I mentioned before. We had a long-term marriage of 17 years. There were many properties that were acquired during the marriage with a lot of disagreement on whether the assets were considered marital versus non-marital. Add to that the fact that we had minor children with medical disabilities and alimony, and the list went on. But the worst part about that case was not necessarily all the issues, but it was really the fact that the parties were simply not willing to settle on any of the issues because one of them, in fact, sometimes both of them, were being very unreasonable. Now, all because all of the issues exist doesn't necessarily mean that your divorce case will take forever. It just sends up a little alarm bell in my mind as to the length of the process and how complex the case may be. I hope this short video provided you some guidance on the amount of time it may take to complete a divorce in Florida. Of course, this short video is not a substitute for an actual consultation with an attorney who could review the specific facts of your case. Thank you again for joining me today, and as always, stay informed so you can stay strong.